Thank you, everybody, for taking the time to hear about our story E79. My name is Pat Donnelly. I only joined the company last May, and prior to that, I spent over 10 years as an exploration geologist, mostly in Northern Canada. I was in Toronto for a number of years as a mining analyst, and then the last 10 years I've been on the corporate side for a couple of other companies. So why did I join E79? At heart, I'm an exploration geologist, and I think the biggest bang for the buck that any investor can make is in the exploration side. And when the board of directors approached me on E79, I never even heard of the company. And so when I looked at it, they had some incredibly compelling drilling results in the middle of 2021. And it's also very well financed, and it's in an incredibly good mining jurisdiction. As you're all well aware, jurisdiction nowadays is even more critical. And you want to be in an area where you're wanted. You want to be in an area that has a history of mining, and you want to be in an area that has good people to run projects. So let's move ahead. So forward-looking statement, I will make some forward-looking statements. So what is E79? We're in the Victorian goldfields of Australia, and that also hosts the world-class FOSTERVILLE mine, which I'll talk about in a minute. That's owned by Agnico, and it's one of the highest grade, most profitable gold mines in the world. And it was a very challenging asset for a long time. And in 2016, Kirkland Lake Gold, which was acquired by Agnico, made an incredible discovery at depth at FOSTERVILLE, specifically the Swan Zone, which has got 3 million tons over an ounce. So we're in the same area as FOSTERVILLE, and as you can see here, we had some very good drilling results. In June of 2021, we hit 11 meters of over 160 grams. Share price went on a tear, and we went out there and raised more money. And we're in an area that has, again, when I get into this presentation, you'll see why we're so excited about the exploration upside. Very large land package. I like large land packages, specifically land packages with a lot of smoke. And we have dozens, if not hundreds, of showings, workings, adits, and other signs of gold mineralization. And so it's a very fertile area. Australia, great place to work because the exchange rate is very good. We got great access, so we don't need helicopters, we don't need camps. We're a 20-minute drive from the local town. And so our direct drilling costs are about $150 Australian per meter, and our all-in cost, when you throw everything in, is about just over $300. This has probably come down, actually. So it's a very cheap place to work, and good people, really good board and management, and we've all been around the block. I've been doing this for 30 years now, and specifically, our Australian team is very strong. So there's only a couple of us. We're based in Vancouver. There's only a couple of us in Vancouver, but it's our Australian technical team that does the most work in moving these projects forward. So, and Australians are incredibly strong technical people, and it's a good country. They got the background of mining, so it's a place you want to be. And we got cash. So even though it's a rotten market right now, we're very well funded, and we can make this cash last a long time. You combine that with the low exploration costs, I think we're in a really good spot. So just an overview of where we are. We're in the Victorian goldfields, and this area is really fascinating. Since gold was discovered there in the middle 1800s, over 80 million ounces of gold have been recovered. And I think it's an overlooked gold area. A lot of people like to focus on, obviously, Northern Ontario and Western Australia and obviously Nevada. But this is an area that's yielded a lot of gold. And as I mentioned before, it's been overlooked, I think, because there wasn't, a lot of the mines that were there have struggled, and specifically FOSTERVILLE. And it was a really challenging mine, had really funky metallurgy, and it went through a number of different owners. And give huge credit to Kirkland Lake Gold. They got very aggressive with their exploration, and they drilled at depth, and they hit the Swan Zone. And they were hitting high-grade visible gold. And I had the opportunity to go to FOSTERVILLE in June, and I got to look at the core, and our board member Stephen Butler joined me there, and I was really taken aback by what they discovered. It was all coarse gold. They call it shotgun gold. And literally, it's quartz veins with big nuggets of visible gold on there. And so it really changed how people thought of the Victorian goldfields, in that you can get these high-grade, very coarse gold deposits. And there's been a number of other companies in there that have had incredible success. So that's kind of resulted in explorationists having a relook at the Victorian goldfields. Our two projects there are MYRTLEFORD and Beaufort. We acquired those only in 2020, and we only started drilling in 2021. And again, it's an area we like a lot. So let's talk about MYRTLEFORD. That's where we've been doing most of our work. And it's a very, very large land package. It's over 40 kilometers long. You can see the red dots there. Those are all working showings adits. And what's really fascinating here is this area was originally the old timers came in with these artisanal mining operations. They were originally chasing the alluvial workings. And when they mined all that out, they went up into the hills and they were looking for the source of this coarse gold. And so they're mining all these outcroppings of veins with coarse gold. And so they were there till about World War I. And then when the war started, everybody left and never came back. And what's really amazing is they're pulling out all kinds of stuff at surface, but they only went down to the water table. They didn't have the capacity to go below the water table. So when I went there, I was really taken aback about all the work that's been done there. And yet, since World War I, nobody has been in there. Nobody's put a drill hole in there. Nobody's done any exploration. So again, one thing I learned a long time ago, where there's obviously, where there's smoke, there's fire. And also, you want to be, you want to be in elephant country, right? This is an area the property itself has yielded over 6 million ounces of gold, and so, where's that gold coming from? It's got to come from somewhere. And again, we think there's a lot more there. So we started drilling at Happy Valley. That was the first area we drilled. The third hole we drilled was 11 meters, 160 grams, and subsequently we had additional very good results. It's about 13 kilometers long, and it has numerous workings, showings, adits. There's gold everywhere. And again, the old timers only went down to the water table. Here's some of the drilling we did there. We drilled about 600 meters. Currently, we're taking a step back from Happy Valley. We've been drilling for 18 months straight. We drilled about 30 holes there. So right now, we're just taking a step back and trying to understand the results. Again, the gold is very coarse. And you can see here some really, really good results. So, hole 6, 2 meters of 44 grams. Hole 7, about 6 meters of 66 grams. So again, they're narrow, but they're very, very high grade, typical orogenic gold deposits, very similar to what you see at Fosterville. And this thing is open at depth. And so right now we're working on a geologic model because some of these structures are offset by late stage structures. So we don't want to just start drilling our brains out and not knowing where we're going. So we're working on a 3-dimensional model, and then we'll decide where these structures are going or figure that out, and then we'll go back and we'll drill them. So here are some of the results we got from Happy Valley. Again, pretty incredible. I don't know too many projects that have had this kind of success at this stage of exploration. And so it's very, very exciting. When you drill a hole and you see the core, the gold's right there, right? It's mostly coarse gold. And again, so that lends itself to probably good metallurgical recoveries, probably most likely gravity. The other area we're drilling at MYRTLEFORD is at Twist Creek to the north. And again, numerous workings, showings, adits. There's been a number of reefs or structures that have been mined. Average grade historically is about an ounce of gold at surface. And again, the old timers did not go down to the water table. So we went in there just earlier this year. We started drilling some of these reefs. Victoria, we started drilling. And Scandinavian, we were drilling and get some good results. It's near surface. Again, narrow but very, very high grade. And again, we're getting coarse gold. And so we just wrapped up drilling there a couple of weeks ago. Again, we're taking a step back and reinterpreting all the results and trying to understand the structure and the controls of mineralization. Again, just switching gears, we'll talk about Beaufort. Again, we've done a little bit of work there. Again, it's yielded over 1 million ounces of alluvial gold. And so what we've been doing geochem, we've been doing mapping, we've been doing LiDAR surveys, which work very, very well for identifying structures from the air. And again, it's 20 kilometers long, and nobody's been mining this thing since World War I. So you can see here some really good structures there. We've been following the gold up from the historical alluvial workings and trying to find the source of gold. So the plan is eventually to go in there and do some reverse circulation drilling and then follow that up with some diamond drilling. So just talking about Fosterville, I know I've been talking about Fosterville quite a bit, but you know, the point I want to make here is I'm not going to go into a geology lesson, but there's a lot of very incredible similarities between Beaufort, Myrtleford, and Fosterville in terms of the style of mineralization, the host lithologies, and the mineralization. So again, so you know, we do talk to people at Agnico. We were at the Fosterville mine, and what really kind of got my attention when I was at Fosterville was these things aren't big deposits. Like in terms of volume, they're not very big. They're very, very discrete. And it's amazing that the Swan Zone, as I mentioned before, there's been a number of different operators at Fosterville, and they all drilled around the Swan Zone, and even a couple of these operators clipped it, and they didn't really understand what they had. So my point is, these things are discrete. You can be right next to it and not be aware of it because they're small, but they're super high grade. And as I said before, the Swan Zone is 3 million tons at 1 ounce. And just an incredible high-grade deposit. So you don't need a lot of material, and as I said before, these things, the signature of these things is they're very, very high grade. Capital structure, yeah, that's been a bit of a disappointment. A year ago, we were at over $1 Canadian, and since that time, we've been putting out good results, and the market really hasn't cared, and we're down to 15 cents. I've been buying stock because this thing is so cheap, and so our market cap is about $10 million. We have $6 million in cash. And so, it's an enterprise value of what, $4 million. And the opportunity to be in one of the world's most incredible mining districts. So really good shareholders. Eric Sprott came in there last year, Commodity Capital, management and founders and insiders. We own a lot of stock. And so I've heard that mentioned a few times. It's very, very important. Whenever the shares come under pressure, I buy stock in the market. And so I'm putting my skin into the game. So it's a really good group, really good guys, really good shareholders. And again, we're well cashed up in a jurisdiction that is good for mining. So again, large land packages, numerous working, showings, adits, and we have numerous other areas I haven't mentioned that have gold within Myrtleford. One area is called Magpie, and I walked that ground. And again, there's basically gold sticking out of the ground. We expect more. When we do go back to drill, we expect the drill results to be successful. We've already had some good results, and now it's simply about following up on those. Again, good shareholders, we got cash, and again, I can't say enough about jurisdiction, which I think is more critical than ever.